Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, wherever you may be. I'm going to give you a quick rundown on what's on tonight's edition of the Clown Hour podcast. We're going to talk about the big trade of the day, James Harden from the Houston Rockets to the Brooklyn Nets, which also included the Indiana Pacers and the Cleveland Cavaliers. We're going to get into the NFL playoffs, who look really bad this weekend, my Steelers, who really look good, the Baltimore Ravens and the Cleveland Browns, as well as the college football playoff national championship game. We're going to break down the game and what it means for Nick Saban's legacy. So until then, and also one more thing, please buy some merch from your boy. Please buy some merch. I really appreciate it. All right, then. I'll see you in a little bit. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, wherever you may be. Welcome to this edition of the Clown Hour, January the 13th. I'm already looking forward to summer already. So we're going to get a lot to get into. So first, I'm going to introduce my co-host, my man, Dwayne Nash. Please check him out on the Yard, such HBCU Sports, reps about all things HBCU Sports. As well as Sleazy Radio every Tuesday night on Facebook Live. Also check out his good work on herosports.com. He reps about FCS athletics, especially as it pertains to HBCUs. And love the sweatshirt, sir. I'll ask you about that in a minute.
Yes.
Capital City Gold. I'm asking you about that. As for me, check out my sports blog called The Clown Times. It's Clown spelled with K at www.theclowntimes.net. You can check me out on Facebook as well. We're on your smartphone, laptop, desktop. Just go to Facebook, search for The Clown Times. You'll find me there. And one more thing, get the merch.
Get the merch. Hey,
Please
look out for my order. It's coming in before this week is out. My order's coming in before this week is out. So hopefully within the next few weeks, I'll be wearing Clown Times merch in a few weeks.
Nice. Of course, recording an old Key and P skit. But anyway, please go to cafepress.com. That's right. Let me get back on track. Please go to cafepress.com and search for the Clown Times Sports. You'll find me there as well. So we got a lot to get into, brother, including the big news of the day. James Harden, he got his wish. He was delivered. He was traded from, if you don't know, Google. He was traded from the Houston Rockets to the Brooklyn Nets. And, which also involved the Indiana Pacers and the Cleveland Cavaliers. So, first of all, as far as what Houston got, I'm going to scroll down right quick here. They got Brooklyn's 3 unprotected first-round draft picks in the deal in 2022, 2024, 2026, plus pick swaps in 2021, 2023, 2025, and 2027. They also got Jared Allen for Taurean Prince from the Nets, and basically, as well as Caris Levert, who was later traded to the Indiana Pacers for Victor Oladipo, and I'm feeling a little bit sorry for Victor Oladipo, but that's not a here nor there. And so also, like Cleveland, Houston received Cleveland's guard Dante Exum, and I believe they also got Cleveland's 2022 first-round pick as well. Houston's also sent a 2023, a lot of years there, second-round pick to the Pacers. And one last thing, Brooklyn also got a 2024 second-round pick from the Cavaliers. That's a lot. But
yeah,
you know what?
I had to keep up with the way that you were saying it based on what I'm reading right here.
Yeah.
They broke it down in a little bit more simplified manner, saying that, the Brooklyn Nets get James Harden and the 2024 second round pick from the Cavs. Correct. The Rockets get Victor Oladipo, Dante Exum, and Karokas. I can't even pronounce his first name.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
From the Nets.
Right.
Yeah, along with 3 unprotected first-round picks, like you said, from 22, 24, 26. And then they swap picks in 21, 23, 25, and 27, which I'm trying to figure out who that will really benefit. Mm-hmm. And then also they get the Cavs first-round 22 pick via the Milwaukee Bucks. Mm-hmm. The Pacers get Caris Levert and the 2023 second-round pick from the Rockets. And the Cavs get Jared Allen and Taurean Prince from the Nets. Wow. Yeah, that was a lot of stuff going on.
Yes.
And I was hearing the deal because I was out and about today. and I heard the deal as it was evolving on the radio today. And it was just originally said that it was going to be well, it originally started out as Jared Dudley and I think Allen to Houston for James Harden. And then the deal, like I said, just kept evolving. And then all of a sudden, next thing I know, I heard Victor Oladipo's name. Yeah. Now, I found it interesting that you feel sorry for Oladipo, whereas I'm starting to think the Houston Rockets might be the winner in this entire deal.
Oh, they're big winners. Reasons. Oh, they're big winners. They're huge winners. I mean, bigger winners than I thought, because remember, James Harden had him over a barrel because everyone knew he wanted out. So they didn't have to give him the best deal. And to me, I thought that Houston would have won it. Maybe they wanted it before. And this is the Caris Levert. They wanted Dinwiddie before Dinwiddie got hurt.
Yeah.
So the fact that, I mean, it sucks for Dinwiddie that he's hurt, but still, the fact that Dinwiddie is still a net, right? That's huge.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to lose Joe Harris. They didn't have to lose a couple other cats. So Brooklyn still has the shooting. They still have the playmaking ability. They're not going to touch KD, Kevin Durant, but they still have their depth. Not as much with Caris Levert being gone. That was huge.
That was super huge.
That was huge. But still, it's not as they didn't have to gut their depth as much as originally would have thought, right? Again, because they still have Dinwiddie, they still have Joe Harris. So to me, I think, and plus, Indiana got its man in a sense, and Caris Levert, he's going to be great for Indiana.
Yeah,
I think to go along with Malcolm Brogdon and company, that's going to be big for Indiana. And so I think, to me, it's a win-win-win.
Yeah.
Right? Houston got their pieces. They got their first round picks because, remember, they gave those picks away to get Chris Paul and later on to get Russell Westbrook. So they replenished themselves.
Yeah.
They really replenished their future. And so, and they don't have a bad squad. I was cracking on Oladipo earlier. They don't have that bad of a squad. They didn't have a bad squad to begin with. It's that James Harden came in out of shape and fat. I mean, if you see, someone on Twitter said that it looked like James Harden hit the all-you-can-eat buffet before the game. I mean, you can see it too. I mean, you can see his belly was a little bit thick. And, he still had his muscles, right? But his belly was thick. And you could tell he was out of shape. He was laboring. He couldn't get a shot going. He got stuffed at the rim by Anthony Davis. Not that anything's wrong getting blocked by Anthony Davis, but still, the point is that he wasn't explosive in his finishes last night against the Lakers. It just looked bad.
I'll say this as a guy that's built with a gut. James Harden game is not built for a dude with a gut. It's just not.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
My game right now is more of a matured version of what my game used to be. Even for a short guy, I was a low post guy. I was a huge fan.
The center of gravity, right? The center of gravity.
Well, yeah. Plus, I like to get a little rough down low back then. Plus, my J wasn't as nice as some others. So getting down in the mix and getting dirty, growing up on the likes of Charles Barkley and then later on watching my man out of Georgetown, the JYD. I just enjoyed that low post game. So. But enough about me and fat basketball players. My thing is this, right? I'm intrigued to see what James Harden is going to do in terms of getting himself back into basketball shape and how long that's going to take, right? That's number one. Number two is the elephant in the room, or in this case, the elephant not in the room, one Kyrie Irving, right?
God, yes.
For
what is wrong with that guy? What's going on with him? I mean, he's missing games and going to birthday parties, maskless on a senator or a mayor candidate. So I don't know, politicians Zoom call. What the fuck is going on with him?
Yo, this dude, I don't know. I can't explain Kyrie, right? And a lot of this goes back to stuff that he would say about 4 or 5 years ago that we kind of ignored. And then it just kept getting worse. And then it kind of apexed in my opinion, with the flat earther thing, right?
Yeah.
And then, the comments made last year about him suggesting that players shouldn't come back and play in the bubble. And I'm like, dude, you weren't playing anyway because you was hurt. Right. And then, of course, the whole Sage incident. And then for those of you out there who are knowledgeable about Sage and probably felt some type of way when you saw Kyrie out there with Sage after having a conversation with someone who was understanding of that spiritual world, especially as it pertains to herbs, they were like, I don't know how I feel about Kyrie Irving having Sage, but that's another conversation too.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we fast forward to get to this week where he's hanging out with his sister and his dad, whose birthdays are this week. He's out at parties, like you said, doing Zoom interviews for politicians and just choosing not to report. Now, my thing is this. If you want to be an activist and you don't want a ball, fine, do that and just go ahead and say that you're retiring from the league.
Yeah.
But you can be an activist and an athlete at the same time. We see LeBron James do it all the time. We Correct. See NFL players do it all the time. We've seen Bill Russell. We've seen Oscar Robinson. We've seen Ali. Hell, we've seen Colin Kaepernick beg to do both. And yet this dude is making the decision that I'm only going to do one and I'm going to do the other when I want. And it's very interesting. I've never seen anyone who is just going to just say, you know what, I'll get back to work when I want to get back to work. I want to see how the Nets handle this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's because it's not league business. He is an employee of the Nets. And I want to see whether or not he's going to face any ramifications for this or not. And then if he decides to come back, what type of teammate is he going to be? How is he going to be accepted by his teammates when he does return? And then how is he going to coexist with his new teammate when you're talking about two guards who are both ball dominant, who ironically enough have a recent history of being, for lack of a better phrase, team destroyers.
Yeah. See Boston. See Boston Celtics.
See Boston. See how he threw rocks at Cleveland and LeBron after he left. Oh my God. See OKC kind of sort of. Well, see more so Houston with James Harden and how he spoke upon his teammates there. Mm-hmm. And applaud John Wall and oh my God, the adult in the room, DeMarcus Cousins.
How about that?
Right?
Yeah.
DeMarcus Cousins.
He spoke with some sense. Good sense.
Speaking sense about the situation. So yeah. I'm really intrigued. Like I said before, to me, the headlines post this trade are how are the Nets going to evolve with this new situation?
Right.
How are the Rockets going to do? Because I mean, they already had the question of dealing with the health of John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins and how long they will be able to, because they're starting off this season playing out beautifully. I wasn't expecting them to come out playing this well.
Yeah.
But can they keep this pace up? And then with the new additions that they have with Oladipo and then the youth that they have, especially with Christian Wood, will this team continue to thrive in the Western Conference? And how high can they get? Because I think in the beginning of the season, we both had them in the lower part in terms of fighting for a playoff spot.
Yeah, I had them no higher than 6.
Yeah, and I had them not making the playoffs potentially. Maybe as a 9th or 10th seed. This deal right here probably, in my eyes, raises them up to 6, maybe even 5. But that's all predicated on whether or not this team can play well together.
Well, you know what, man? The shame of that
stay healthy.
Yeah, the shame of that are 2 things. You mentioned DeMarcus Cousins earlier. He's averaging damn near double-double. He had 13 and 10 last night.
Yeah.
Coming off the bench, he played, 18 minutes, but I think that's going to increase when he gets himself well-rounded health-wise. John Wall, he had a very efficient game. He had 10 points, 5 assists in 30 minutes. But the real shame comes, that's the first thing. The second shame, the real shame comes in the fact that they have a new coach. The new coach is a brother. His first opportunity. Even though he's been around the NBA is in his blood, and Stephen Silas. His pops, Paul Silas.
Paul Silas, yes,
the great
sir.
Paul Silas. I mean, the thing, that's why I hate about this James Harden thing. He didn't give him a chance.
No, he didn't.
He didn't give him a chance. I mean, with James Harden right mentally, this team was playing well. I mean, I think they would have won a couple of games. He was more engaged.
Yeah.
If he was more engaged. And even still, I mean, it's a long season, and, you know, people expected to drop off anyway. Hence, our predictions are in the season, right? Projections, I should say. But it's just a goddamn shame. He just threw him under the bus, led him in a very difficult situation. They got a new GM as well, obviously, since what's his face left to go to the 76ers. But I mean, with Cousins playing well and John Wall playing well, it's just too bad. I'll just say this: the addition of Oladipo should help them. I think that he'll come in pissed from being traded yet again in his young career, but which is too bad because I think he's a damn good player. But I think that should coalesce the locker room a bit more, and maybe rally more behind Silas, because I think the other guys starting to buy into Silas. And, you know, being that Wall is on the second chance and Cousins maybe on his last chance, you know, given his health and everything, they're starting to play better. So it's a shame that things had to end that way. But I would say this: as far as I talked a little bit about the Pacers earlier, but they're already playing well as it is. To get a cat like Caris Levert to join that squad. I mean, I mentioned Brogdon earlier. I think the Holiday Brothers are still with Indiana.
I think so too.
I check here because they beat the Pacers. They beat the Warriors last night. So I'm looking at the box score now. So yeah, Sabonis is playing well. So you get that young talent, that young core, and of course Miles Turner too. So that young core, throw in a damn good player in Levert, who's probably going to come in pissed with a chip on his shoulder. Yeah, Indiana's going to be a problem. They're already in the upper. I mean, it's early, obviously, but still, they're in the top half of the Eastern Conference standings just from memory. They're going to be a problem. They're going to be a bigger problem with Levert. I think Levert fits in better than Oladipo did. So that's one team that really matters. Well, hence the win-win-win, right? So I mean, Brooklyn's still figuring it out. They're going to be fine. They got the talent to figure it out. I just hope that Kyrie Irving doesn't really fuck that situation up. And with Harden coming in, here's the catcher. With Harden coming in, and I know that Kyrie and Durant are tight. KD are tight, mad tight. Who's to say, when it comes down to it, who's to say that, and I know NBA contracts are guaranteed, but who's to say that someone was not talking to Kyrie as we speak? It says, look, bro, we're trying to win shit here.
Yeah.
If you don't want to play anymore, don't play anymore. That's fine. If you're not feeling the squad, we'll get you the fuck out of here. I think that's not true, but still, if that's the case.
I'm hoping that's the case. I'm hoping somebody is pulling this dude by his coattail and saying, hey, make a decision, bruh.
Yeah.
You either in or you're out. Make a decision. Because we would like to have you here. If you don't want to be here, then okay, we'll make provisions to make sure that you're gone. And that's one of the things that I was surprised wasn't the deal originally, as of going straight up between Harden
and what I thought at first.
Kyrie.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my belief was that is that the Houston Rockets didn't want to deal with that headache.
Yes.
You know, so I completely understand. But two things real quick as it pertains to the Houston Rockets. First and foremost, this was the team, the Houston Rockets, with their three, I guess, leaders, if you will, in terms of veterans, is what I wanted the Washington Wizards to be a couple of years ago, in terms of having homegrown talent and Victor Oladipo being back home,
right, having
John Wall here, and them two playing alongside DeMarcus Cousins. I'm kind of jealous, but at the same time, I'm kind of not, because they only got a pair of good knees between the two of them. But, they're showing me wrong right now by the way that they're playing right now. So maybe I need to shut my mouth. Number two, maybe Silas is better off not having James Harden there.
That's the thing too.
Yeah, we've talked about this before when there were rumblings of both Harden and Westbrook wanting out of Houston, and now they're both gone, that they weren't giving Silas a chance with him being a young black coach. And we already know this as it pertains to the head coaching jobs anywhere on any level as it comes to black hires. In most cases, they end up getting hired in places where there's been a lot of failure, and they're looked at as being potential saviors and potentially not given enough time to come in and clean up that mess. With that said, that job becomes a little bit easier when you don't have a malcontent in-house with you, making things more difficult. So for Silas, I'm glad that he's gone, and now he doesn't have to deal with that, and they can go ahead and continue to develop this team under what he wants to do. And then what was that? Part three, what you said about Oladipo and him being traded around a lot in his career. We've had this conversation before too.
Yeah.
Oladipo is one of those guys that I consider to be second tier guys. It doesn't necessarily, and by saying that, it's not saying anything negative about his talent level.
Of course.
Because yes, he's an all-star, not necessarily an all NBA guy, but he's an all-star, multi-time all-star, but he's good enough to be trade bait. It's not to say that great players can't be trade bait either, but in most cases, you'll see those second-tier guys be a guy that moves around often because he has something that everyone wants, and it's not because he's just an added piece into the deal to make the deal sweeter. No, he's thrown in because he's an asset.
Right.
And that actually speaks volumes to Oladipo, but at the same time, it says that he's not necessarily great enough to be somewhere long term. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. He's kind of reminiscent to me of a slightly more athletic Joe Johnson.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. That's a good reminder. Yeah, this is too bad. I like Oladipo a lot. He's very talented off the court. He can sing, but he's a great personality off the court. But we'll see, man. But again, that's like I said, we're kind of sharing the brain with this here. Houston did get better. I think Indiana got better.
Yeah,
I think Brooklyn didn't have to give up all his assets and depth. So that's why I think it's a win-win-win. In Cleveland, they got whoever they need to get. So whatever. We'll move around to
whatever happens in Cleveland.
Whatever happens in Cleveland happens. Dan Gilbert. Let's move to the NFL playoffs. So we're going to. I still have you left to move. So we're going to move from the good all the way down to the ugly, right? So, and I think it was real lucky. We're going to get to the ugly part later, obviously. But what's interesting about the NFL playoffs is that of the 6 games during Super Wild Card Weekend, or as it's called, the Wild Card Weekend, only 2 of the home teams won.
Yeah, I was pointing that out to the guys as we were watching the games.
Yeah.
Only 2 home teams won. The 2 seed, the 5 seed, and the 6 seed on both sides all advanced.
Yeah.
It was just very interesting to see, especially that latter, the earlier fact of only 2 home teams, and of course there's both the 2 seeds that won at the crib. It was very interesting, and it was a lot of good football played.
Yeah.
Up until that dumpster fire on late Sunday night.
I'll say it. I have a lot of shit to say about that as you go out. But let's start with the positive first and work our way down to the bad. The positive being the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson. Now he makes it hard for me to hate the Ravens again. I always respected the Ravens because it's something about teams that talk shit and back it up. Like the Ray Lewises, the Ed Reeds, and the Terrell Suggs did. Terrell Suggs just say did. I always respect teams who do that, even as a team I couldn't stand in the Ravens. But I'll say this, man. I'm glad that Lamar got his first win, playoff win. That monkey's off his back, reminiscent whispers of Bill Polian saying he should change positions, which is still one of the most stupid things I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Here's the stat line. Lamar Jackson finished 17-24, 179 yards. He had that awful pick early in the game where he called it that, quote, dumbass pass.
Yeah.
But it also led the team in rushing with 136 yards on just 16 carries and that long touchdown that tied the game. That to me was a turning point. When they were down 10-0, they were later down 10-3, and then that tied the game. And from there, actually, hell, I mean, when they were down 10-0, they scored the Titans 20-3 the rest of the way.
Yeah.
And when they came out in the second half and scored that touchdown with J.K. Dobbins, scored that touchdown to make it 17-10, even though it was early, they took off a lot of time in the third quarter in that drive. But I was like, it's over. It's over. I mean, because they didn't let the Titans get close. Well, they got close, but still they weren't threatened. You know what I'm saying? Because it was obvious, you could tell, even though the score was close, that Baltimore was just outmanaged to the seed. I mean, they held Derrick Henry to 40 yards rushing.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I forget what the exact stat is, but it was the first time that the Titans have been kept under 100 yards rushing in a very long period of time, which is highly insane. I want to say maybe the entire season.
Yes.
Maybe dating back to last year at least. Like I said, I don't know the exact thing, but they were held under 100 yards rushing, which is insane to hear, especially how dominant Derrick Henry has been over the past few.
And speaking of which, Derrick Henry was a 2,000-yard rusher.
Yeah. Yeah, which is why only 40 yards rushing, and that was the reason why I thought that the Tennessee Titans would beat Baltimore, because of the fact that they would rely heavily on Derrick Henry, and that would free up Tannehill to do whatever he needed to do offensively, be it scramble for a couple of yards here and there, as he's been known to do, and also make plays with his arm. But it didn't go down like that, and they knew that if they were capable of beating down on Derrick Henry, it was going to force Tannehill to potentially make plays, and their defense swarmed and didn't allow that to happen either.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. But check this out, man. The Ravens, man, it's like playing on Madden. When you run the ball, they rushed for 236 yards.
Yeah.
They've been rushing. They rushed for over 200 yards several times as a team. They ran for, albeit against the Bengals, but they ran over 400 yards against the Bengals. The last game of the season to get them in the playoffs. So they're on the road. They discovered who they are. They discovered their identity. They're rolling. Maybe it's good for Lamar Jackson to play on the road. Who knows? Maybe get that pressure off him for playing at home. But it was weird, again, me as a Steelers fan pulling for the Ravens because of Lamar Jackson, to get the monkey off his back. Plus, I'm not that crazy about Tennessee anyway, but that's just old AFC Central history.
I was about to say, that's other AFC Central beef right there between the Steelers and Houston/Tennessee. So, yeah.
Yeah, and plus the beef that still exists between Baltimore and Tennessee. So that's never going to go away.
Dude, I missed the AFC Central. Oh, my God.
Truly black and blue.
Yeah, the
Jacksonville was tough
AFC
too.
North.
Jacksonville was tough too.
Now,
Jacksonville was a problem too. Yeah.
Oh, there was a huge problem. Now the AFC North is close, as close as we're going to get to it. But to have that elimination of that 15, albeit Tennessee or Jacksonville, that vibe isn't as strong as it used to be. Yeah. But it's still there nonetheless. All the teams still hate each other.
It's still there. Even Jacksonville.
Yeah.
It's still there. It's still, trust me, it's still there. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So beat as a man about the Ravens and they're getting their swag back, beating a good team like the Titans on the road, which is the conference finalists last year. They go to Buffalo. I actually love Baltimore's chances in Orchard Park. I know it's supposed to snow in Buffalo this coming Sunday. Yeah, the game was on Sunday. And that's going to be fun to watch, by the way.
Yes, it will.
And, that's going to help Baltimore in the sense of its running game. You want a good running game when it's snowing. And plus, Buffalo cannot stop the run. They're not as good as defensively as they were last year. And I think Baltimore's nasty up front. That'll probably negate whatever running game Buffalo has. Because I push all the pressure on Josh. I forget his last name, but it's going to put the pressure on.
Josh Allen, yeah.
Josh Allen's going to put the pressure on that quarterback. So who almost lost the game against the Colts last week.
Yeah.
But that's going to be a huge challenge. So I like Baltimore to go forward. And who knows if they play? I think they'll play Kansas City in the championship game. But still, I mean, that's. I'm glad to see Lamar Jackson get off the schneid, and in they're rolling. Also, to keep going down this road, I know it was a losing cause, but I like the way Washington fought against Tampa. I really did. I mean, they really impressed me. That's typical Ron Rivera, having them ready to play. They knew they were outmanned, but they showed up.
Mm-hmm.
That quarterback, Travis Heineke.
Taylor Heineke.
Taylor Heineke,
yes, sir.
He's very mobile. He led the team in rushing. Mm-hmm. Had a nice scramble for a touchdown. It's just that they didn't have the horses. But it's nothing to be ashamed of. I think the future is bright for your Washington football team.
Well, I hope so, right? And I'll get to that.
You got the coach.
We have the coach, even though I'm still a little leery on the coach because of his past in Carolina. I'll allow our watchers to go and look at Ron Rivera's coaching record. I understand, it's also part of the pieces, the players that you have on the roster too, that helps with that. But his record is a little dicey, and then the fact that it's almost like Carolina North here in DC, especially as it pertains to the general manager hire that they're looking to do right now. Whereas it's more so going to be potentially a yes man for Ron Rivera, because Ron's going to be making the decisions. They're looking for a GM more so to help out with the cap and everything else, and I guess to assist Ron instead of being Ron's boss.
Right.
We'll see how that works out, right? Because we already know that coach GM guys.
I'll say this right quick, brother.
Mm-hmm.
At least he's taking control from Daniel Boy Snyder. At least he's keeping Daniel Boy Snyder at bay.
That's the best part of this whole thing, which is something that I'm enjoying. Yeah. Because the thing is, we saw it a little bit with Jay Gruden, but it got to a point where things were starting to get murky again. And part of that was because of Bruce Allen, but I don't want to harp on the past. The thing is, Dan will stay out of the way. Well, it's been shown recently that Dan will stay out of the way until Dan sees that he needs to get back in the way. Yeah. So this is looking like we're going in a good direction, and Dan may continue to stay out of the way, but I digress. Back to the playoff discussion. Heineke, him running the ball in his play. I don't know if you remember, but the week before the final regular season game against Philadelphia, where there was discussions of whether or not it was going to be Heineke or I see his face, or Alex Smith starting for Washington in that game. I told you I was comfortable with Heineke based upon what his head coach at Old Dominion said in an interview that I listened to earlier that week. So much so that I was willing to run through a wall for this dude because I was so amped based on the conversation. We didn't get a chance to see it against Philadelphia, but boy, did we see it against Tampa in a situation where Todd Bowles knew that he could dial up the blitz against a guy who hadn't seen a lot of NFL experience and potentially would rattle him, and it didn't work. And the fact that he was capable of dealing with that blitz, because they kept sending the kitchen sink for almost the entire game. Mm-hmm. And his ability to pocket awareness and his ability to maneuver within small spaces, where he did some magical things several times within that game. That was the first time I ever got that excited about watching a Washington QB play within the pocket and then make moves and scramble out of that pocket for a very long time. And that includes Brittle Bob.
Yeah.
Because Bob's thing was he would go ahead and bootleg. Yeah. Bob would go ahead and bootleg and then run plays that way, or he would have called RPOs. Heineke's thing was he would try to make plays from within the pocket, and then if everything broke down, then he will run. And he's not afraid to do so.
Right.
Something that I thoroughly loved. The thing is, though, he's going to be a free agent at the end of the season, and they need to re-sign him.
Right.
Now, he wants to stay. Yes, good for him because he went ahead and did it on the big stage. I understand it was only one game, but still, it was a pressure situation.
Yes.
Big stage of a playoff game, on prime time playoff game against, as much as I hate to do player versus player analysis in the NFL or in the NBA, especially in this situation where they don't have to defend one another, but people like to do it anyway, so I'll do it in this situation. It was still Tyler Heinicke versus Tom Brady.
Correct.
And he came out and he performed well, even after that early interception. He still had well over 300 yards passing, led the team in rushing, and if not for that horrible call on that final drive, on that wheel route to McKissick, where they said that he was stepped out of bounds and it was an incomplete pass, Washington could have driven down the field and scored and sent that game into overtime. And a situation that no one thought would happen. Everybody thought that Tampa would blow them out. Right. And even in situations where it started to look that way, even though Chase Young wasn't as effective as a lot of people would have hoped, including myself. Yeah, they still made plays.
So much for calling Brady out, right?
He called him out, and they did their best to make sure that he didn't play well. Yeah. But you know what? Our nose tackle Allen played extremely well.
Right.
And he had 2 sacks in that game. So yeah, you can stop one. You're not going to stop all 5 of those guys in Allen, Young. Sweat, Kerrigan.
They got a lot of dogs up front, man.
They got a lot of dogs up front. So yeah, you're not going to hold them all down.
Right.
And, go ahead and focus on Chase Young if you want. I enjoy that because everyone else ate. So yeah, and the thing was that game could have gotten out of hand. For as many times as Tampa got into the red zone but didn't score touchdowns and it just held them to field goals.
Yeah.
Hey, shout out to the defense on that. And like I said before,
real.
Yes. And shout out to Tyler Heinicke and that offense for doing as much as they could, because Tampa did a wonderful job stopping Antonio Gibson in that run game. And Heinicke, shout out to Heinicke for forcing Cam Sims to make plays in that game on Saturday, because Cam would be off and on again throughout the entire year. And that was one of his highlight games because, of course, Tampa did whatever they could to make sure that it wouldn't be Terry McLaurin beating them deep downfield. They were forcing the ball to go elsewhere, and other guys made plays. So, yes, I thoroughly enjoyed what Washington football team did Saturday, even in the loss.
I'll say this, man, and we're not going to focus on this because we're talking about playoff games and everything, but I'll say this. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier, your future is bright. I think your team's future is very bright. I think, again, so. I know you're leery on Ron Rivera's coaching record. I know you're leery on him doing even though he's not technically a GM and his title, but he's kind of oversees he kind of puts together the grocery list and everything else. And in addition to coaching him up, I get that you kind of leery on that. I would be leery on that as well. I'm just saying the discipline that he instills, he's instilling in Washington, keeping Danny Boy at bay. And that's the most important thing. Keeping Snyder at bay and doing his thing. Remember, because he fired your boy Haskins. Haskins was Danny Boy's boy.
Yeah.
That's how he ended up in Washington. Yeah. So, the point being is that I think you guys are good hands. All you guys need is a quarterback. Re-sign Heinicke. Do something with Alex Smith. Keep him around, at least because he's a great leader in the locker room. And I think you got the defense. Maybe shore at the back end. You got the front seven. Maybe shore at the back end. Maybe get some more playmakers. Who knows? But I think you guys got a great future.
Yeah, if they can go ahead and get them a middle linebacker,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a little bit more help on the corners, even though Darby stepped up this year. I was a little leery about how he would play alongside Kendall Fuller. Curl, the 7th round draft pick, safety back there. It's going to be interesting to see what happens when London Collins comes back off of injury and how they deal with that situation. But yeah, I like what's going on right now.
Yes.
Let's just see how they continue to build on it. I'm not going to get hyped yet, but hey, that firing in Philadelphia helped situations out for me. I like seeing that. I wasn't necessarily too keen, or I should say too keen, but too happy about the change at defensive coordinator in Dallas, because it's a possibility they may get better.
Yep.
I was hoping that Dallas D was still.
But I'll tell you what, dude doesn't have, and I forget his name, former coach of the Falcons. He does not have
Dan Quinn.
He does not have. Remember his defense in Seattle. They had prime Richard Sherman, prime Cam Chancellor, prime who's the strong safety, the other safety there. I forget his name. Earl Thomas.
Yeah.
And prime Legion of Boom. They don't have that in Dallas. Now, if they draft, if Dallas drafts and they're in a position to do so, draft Patrick Surtain II,
Junior,
out of Alabama to go with Diggs, with Stephon Diggs' brother. I think that's a huge. I think that would be a huge improvement. But they need dogs on the defense. They'll have this. I wouldn't worry about Dallas. But as far as Philadelphia, you touch on Philadelphia right quick before we get to the
Giants. The Giants have played well this past
season. The Giants.
Yeah,
they played out of their minds this year, considering their lack of talent, but the injuries. But
it's kind of hard to say that a 6-win team played well, but based upon what they did the year prior, they've improved, and there were spots in which that defense
and the injuries. And injuries too.
Yeah, that's the thing. If they can somehow get consistency through the injuries on the offensive side of the ball, they might be able to do something as well. But yeah, as of right now, I'm still leery about Washington and what happens. Yeah. Show me first.
We're gonna before we get to the last game of Wild Card Weekend. This is the ugly. We'll get to kind of the ugly in Philadelphia. You touched upon Philadelphia real quick. I almost forgot about. Doug Pederson getting fired.
Yeah.
That's wild. I understand why they made the move. I mean, you're going to go from the last game of the season from what's the quarterback from Oklahoma?
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts, go from him to Nasty Nate Sutterfield.
Nasty Nate.
And you mean to tell me that I knew that the owner, Jeffrey Louis, wouldn't buy his explanation of wanting to see the improvement and evaluate Nasty Nate. I knew that wasn't going to fly with him. But this one thing, man, that common denominator, though, from Andy Reid to Chip Kelly to now Dougie P is Howie Roseman. He's had some suspect drafts. He wanted power. And he craved power. So the eyes are on him. So Philadelphia's a fucking dumpster fire. We're not going to worry about him. But I'll say this, man. That's why I say you guys have a good future. So from kind of ugly to the very ugly, the Pittsburgh Steelers getting their asses beat by the fucking Browns. Look, I know that the Browns are a lot better this year. The future's bright for them. But goddamn, you're on the Browns.
Yeah.
And you're going to come out. The snap selling right with Big Ben's head. Neither he nor James Conner made an effort to recover it to keep it from going to end zone for a touchdown. I'm thinking, the game's over. Because they were flat.
Yeah.
They were flat. I mean, Marquise Pouncey hiking the ball way over his head like that. And then the next possession, Big Ben throws an interception, a bad pass, and went over the head of the short corner running back in the flat. That led to another touchdown, which was beautiful. It was like slant, catch and run by Jarvis Landry. And it was over. 28-0 in the first quarter. 28-0 in the first quarter. Not half, quarter. And sure, Pittsburgh they woke up in the second half, but damn, Cleveland was rolling at that point, which included a very suspect decision by Omar Epps, aka Mike Tomlin's decision to punt on 4th and 1 from near midfield when they had the momentum instead of going for it. That killed any momentum Pittsburgh had. Because imagine them scoring and going from 35 to 23 to 35 to 30.
Yeah.
Which was late in the third quarter. But it is whatever happened. Sure, Ben Roethlisberger threw for over 500 yards, but he threw 66 passes.
Yeah, he had to.
He threw 4 touchdown passes, but he threw 4 interceptions. So those yards and those touchdowns are what I like to call empty calories, because they were made when they were rallying, when they were abandoning the game and had to rally.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'll say this for Cleveland, right quick before I bash him and steal some more. Baker Mayfield, he kind of won that game. It was between that and the 5 turnovers the Steelers had that they took advantage of. But the important thing is he didn't turn over the ball. Baker Mayfield didn't, and he didn't get sacked.
Yeah.
And he passed for 260 yards and 3 touchdowns. So he wasn't the game manager.
Yeah.
He kind of led. I mean, this up with 5 turnovers, but it was all him. It was the Baker. This was the Baker game. It's from the standpoint of the ebb and flow, and they're able to run the ball a little bit, but Baker was cooking. So props to, I can't believe I'm about to say about the damn Browns, but props to them for getting their first playoff win since 1994.
Yeah, but I'll say this though: is it bad that I kept believing that the Steelers would come back in that game up until the third quarter?
You want the only one because they scored 23 points just like that.
Yeah, but see, it's not an indictment on Cleveland. It's just we've seen stuff like that happen before in the playoffs in our lifetime.
Yeah.
See Buffalo versus Houston,
right,
in 1993, and then see.
Someone had a meme about that on Facebook, like when Clifford was making their run. But yeah.
Oh, of course, and then of course, New England versus Atlanta, or anything Atlanta has done earlier on this season. So yeah, we've seen situations where teams are down big and still be able to have a comeback placed on them. Mm-hmm. So, and I was hoping that if Cleveland wanted to end the game, they would go ahead and put their foot, once again, lack of a better term, put their foot on their necks. To go ahead and end this game early, because it seemed like there were periods, and especially in the second quarter, where Cleveland, it seemed like they were just coasting and wanting time to run out. And I'm like, yo, stop playing. I understand that Ben Roethlisberger hasn't looked like old Ben all year, but you don't want to be the victim of old Ben coming back and doing what he's normally done. So go ahead, make these plays and get this game so out of reach that they can't come back. And it finally happened halfway through the fourth, right, and where it was just completely out of reach. But as much as ugly as the Steelers were against Cleveland, it's just about as ugly as the Chicago Bears were against New Orleans.
At least the Nickelodeon podcast. Did you see the game on Nickelodeon? At least that made it good. That made it worthwhile. I mean, the slime zone. How cool was that? The slime zone. Come on now.
I just find it funny that there are a lot of adults, and most of us, of course, that enjoy, that have kids. Yeah. Of whatever age, right? Mm-hmm. Especially kids that have watched Nickelodeon, or that we have watched Nickelodeon at one point in time in our lifetime. I'm gonna say this, and I said it yesterday on Sleazy Sports. The broadcast team of Iron Eagle, what's your voice, Nate Burleson, and I forget what the young lady's name is that has a huge TikTok power.
Shouldn't I show all that with that sideline reporter brother, young brother on there?
So that's where they're from. Okay, that broadcast team was a lot better than some broadcast teams I've seen during the regular season, and anyone last name Collinsworth that appears on TV on a regular basis. Right. And I would love to see them on the regular. Now, I don't know how much money Nickelodeon will probably have to invest in order to do this throughout the season, but hey, why not do this during the regular season?
They could do just one game a week. They could do one game a week.
They could just do one game a week.
They don't have to do multiple games.
Hey, Nickelodeon. Hey, are you listening, Nickelodeon? I'm about to give you an idea. What you do is this. You go ahead, you set it up every week for your viewers of Nickelodeon to go ahead and vote on Nickelodeon.com or on your apps or whatever, or social media. Vote for the game of the week. And every week you guys do that, right? And just do one game every Sunday. And you could do that for the entire season. It's an idea, right? Especially if they believe that, what happened Saturday worked well. Why not do it
it's
for the
money.
entire season?
Wherever they're about making money. And the thing is that they already, most of the clientele fan base, people don't believe is women. Yeah. Most of NFL fans are women. It's statistically shown. So they got the market with the adults, obviously, young adults as well. They're tapping this now. They're tapping the market for kids. Yeah. And they see the way they explain the penalties and how Nate Burleson did an awesome job of not talking down, but explaining the games to younger viewers and people who don't really watch the game. I like the young Sheldon, like breaking down like the penalties. Yes, yeah. with young the character young Sheldon breaking down the penalties, and like you said before, Nate Burleson not talking down to the kids, but just explaining the game to them. Dynamic. Now I'll say this: the both of us, we had to grow up just watching regular football, right? And we had to learn that way, which is something that I don't begrudge. Mm-hmm. I'm not upset that I had to learn it that way, but had I had to learn it this way, oh man, it would have been a little bit easier. It would have been, but you know what? Hey, it was cool learning it the way that we learned it too. So I'm not mad at it. But yeah, that's a way to introduce the game to kids that probably wouldn't watch it on a regular basis, or to make it a little bit more accessible to younger viewers that don't understand. Exactly. That demographic of kids under 10. Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, yeah, we were special. We understood probably by the age of 9, by the age of 8, we got it. But those kids, 6, 7, 8, 9, that's perfect for them right there. Exactly. The way that was done, that was perfect for them. Mm-hmm. So yeah, why not, right? Why not? One more thing before we move on to college football playoff. I meant to ask you about this. You check going down memory lane with Nickelodeon. There was a lot of chat on Facebook groups and Steelers Facebook groups of fan base, because we have a large fan base, obviously, and we can be pretty insufferable at times. But let me ask you this: we won't have to go in depth. This could be for another podcast if we wanted to. What should we do about Big Ben? $41 million count against the cap next season. He'll be in his last year of his contract. He's 30. He'll be 39 years old. We'll be over the cap next year because of COVID. So should we can't cut him, because if we cut him before a certain date, we save 19 mil, but we'll be on the hook for 22 mil in dead money. So to me, you might as well keep the motherfucker for one more season and just reinvest the offensive line, because he couldn't run block with a damn. Improve our secondary. Trim the fat as far as Juju. Let his ass go. And Pouncey is gone. Yeah, Pouncey's probably gone. So he's retired already. He made the announcement. Oh, he did. Oh, I missed that. Damn. Okay, so it's official. Mm-hmm. No wonder they were crying on the bench at the end. He and Big Ben, because they figured it was going to be over, and maybe Big Ben would follow suit. Who knows? But the point is that we need to. I think we two offensive line, get rid of our coordinators, both of them. Yeah, our offense coordinator sucks. He's too predictable. Go back to a power running game. Get some running backs get a running back in the draft, but mainly focus the draft around rebuilding the offensive line, because the defense played well, even with the injuries. So focus on the offensive line. You got young wide receivers. Mm-hmm. Get a running back in the draft. Maybe hire a couple of guys in the secondary for free agents. But I think the big question surrounding Big Ben, the one domino already fell in Pouncey. That's one of his best friends on the team. So what do you think the Steelers should do about Ben Roethlisberger? Yeah, like you said, it's going to be a huge cap hit if they cut him, which I doubt that they do, right? The only way Big Ben is out of Pittsburgh is if Big Ben
once out of Pittsburgh, and that's only
retirement. Yeah, he has one
retirement.
More
Yeah, because no one's going to be willing to take on that amount of money in a trade for a guy who is probably past his prime, right?
Yeah.
The thing though that I think is going to be interesting for Pittsburgh is, as of right now, we don't know who is the heir apparent to Big Ben.
Right.
They should
have
been
Mason Rudolph. He played better this year, but yeah, I'm not a fan of Mason Rudolph at all.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch that final game of the season, so I don't know how he played in that situation. But yeah, my thing is they should have. Well, I'm hoping that they gotten the time to evaluate that and see. This is why I don't like the preseason being reduced to 3 games or possibly 2, is because you won't get an opportunity to see situations where guys that you need to develop throughout the year.
They need game situations. They need
gameplay situations.
Practices won't do that,
much. Right?
Practices won't do but so much. Yeah.
Practices won't do but so much. You have to learn in line of fire, even if it's against bad competition, right?
Correct.
As long as it's NFL caliber competition, even if that's preseason NFL caliber competition.
Game plans, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right. So just something so you can see what it is that they need to work on, develop on that, work on that, so you can go ahead and have your replacement. But the way things are starting to set up now again for 2021, they won't even have that with the reduced schedule, and then you get 17 games. So they're going to really have to find a replacement for Ben ASAP.
Right.
ASAP.
They can't. We can't keep putting it off.
Can't keep
We're
putting it off
the last few seasons. We can't keep putting it off.
And then you have to take one more shot with trying to make a championship run with Ben and see and hope that it works out. So yeah, but yeah, you need to go ahead and get you a guy that'll be within this system at least a year before Ben leaves, so you can go ahead and prep. If not, it's going to be a while before they end up getting a QB in there to try to get this team back to his level of play. But hey, we've already seen that this team can win without a quality QB and go 8-8 with Big Ben not in there. So, maybe if they can just get them a guy that's good enough. So it'll be very intriguing to see what they do with it over the next 2 years, based upon QB play. Do they decide to go young and fill that spot that way? Or once Big Ben decides to hang it all up, do they go ahead and fill that spot with a journeyman?
Well, and we'll close the show on this. College football playoff. We all knew that Alabama was going to win. I was hoping and praying one was going to be ass whooping, but deep down I kind of knew it was going to be ass whooping. They were just better about. They were better than LSU was last year. Okay. Yeah. Mac Jones doing his thing, throwing for four touchdown passes, I think. No, 5 touchdown passes. Excuse me. Najee Harris had a field day. Devonta Smith, 215 receiving yards. He was that dude with 3 touchdowns. But I want to focus on Nick Saban because it's not, to me, I didn't need that game to further validate his greatness. I figured he was already better than Bear Bryant. Because they both had 6 national championships before Monday's game, right? And now obviously he has 7. But, to the point where Alabama has statues of both Bear Bryant and Nick Saban outside of the football stadium on campus. But for Nick Saban to do it during a time where there's a cap on scholarships per team, that everyone at Mama is on TV, and that you got power conferences that a lot of teams still get a big share of the pie. The SEC, as tough as it is, had to deal with the Clemson problem the past few years, and to tear down what I thought was a great Ohio State team this season. Well, not great, but a damn good Ohio State team. And to do this year after year after year after year after year, right? And, and we hadn't talked about the one championship he won at LSU. So to me, I think that Saban is just the man. He's just a GOAT. He could quit tomorrow and be the GOAT. But he's not slowing down anytime soon. He's a damn good recruiter. And, but because think about this, when Bear Bryant was in his heyday. There were only a few teams on TV every year.
Yeah.
There were no capital scholarships, so the blue bloods were able to be the true blue bloods in terms of the rich getting richer. And smaller schools or schools within the conference that couldn't compete, they couldn't compete with that, right?
No.
You only had a handful of great teams. So to do it then, of course, it was easy. I don't want to say easy because it's never easy to win on that level, but still, it was an easy lift to me to have all that happen back in the day than have it now where parity is more prevalent, even though it's like pretty much the same 4 or 5 teams every year, right? Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Oklahoma for the most part. And maybe Georgia here and there. And Notre Dame maybe. But
maybe Notre Dame, the occasional Pac-12 team, the occasional
like Oregon or some
Big 12
like
team. Basically, yeah.
Yeah. So for Nick Saban to do it consistently in the rough and tough SEC, you gotta give it up. He's the GOAT. Apologies to Bear Bryant's family and friends. Saban is the GOAT, period. End of discussion.
I'll say this, right? I mean, he's done it with a lot of great players.
Right.
And this is the first and maybe the last time that they'll end up playing this type of schedule with the SEC where they played everybody.
Right.
Because of COVID. And for them to run the entire SEC the way that they did this year. And there were some good teams in the SEC this year too, especially with Florida stepping up the way that they did. And who else looked good in the SEC this year? Florida, Georgia, of course, as always. But Georgia always finds a way to Georgia it up somehow. So yeah, for them to run through the entire conference like that, kudos to them. This might be his best effort ever, just based upon what they did this year. I don't know if this is necessarily his best team because we've seen him have better defensive teams with a bunch of stars on the offensive side of the ball too. This is the first time he's done it with all offense and little defense. So he's one of the greats. I don't know if I can necessarily call him the greatest. I mean, I don't want to be a prisoner of the time because we can do that very easily. But he's pretty damn good. Right. He's pretty damn good.
Exactly. So we were saying, so any other tidbits, any tidbits you've heard here and there that you want to share with the viewers that's on your mind? Or let's talk about your go-go shirt, right? Sweatshirt, right quick. Cowboy City Go-Go.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yes, G League. Nice.
Yes, sir.
Nice.
Yes. My sister got this for me as a gift for Christmas a couple of years ago. I think I said on the show before, my sister is a huge basketball fan. And when the name was first announced, when they said that we were going to get a G League team, and it was going to be called the Capital City Go-Go, man, we lost our minds. And then for the logo, I don't know if you can see it well.
Yeah, I can.
But the logo is a Congo drum.
Yeah.
With a basketball in there.
Yeah, that's tight.
I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get me some merch. I gotta get my hands on the merch. So she went ahead and surprised me with that. So yeah, I haven't worn this in a while, so I went ahead and pulled this out today. But in terms of other tidbits going on, first and foremost, as it pertains to the national championship game, 2 tidbits. Shout out to me for being Nostradamus, as I like to call it again. If you saw, we normally do our annual picks for college football season, but we do our picks based upon the spread every year. And I think this is the second time I've won on the show. Now, we didn't have the best picks in terms of our show hosts and our contributors. Well, not our contributors, but some of our fans. Well, no, they are contributors. Yeah. One of our fans, Howie, he actually got the best record out of everyone in terms of the picks. But as of the show host, I got the best, and I won it based upon the final score. Now, I originally picked 2 scores in terms of the total points. My original pick was 73. My second pick, which ended up being the total, 76. So yeah, that one was weird. It's not the first time it's ever happened because I mean I see things. That's greatness. I see things. I don't want to brag about that. It's like the movie A Beautiful Mind. It's just ironic that the guy's last name is also Nash, but I digress. But the second thing that I wanted to talk about was, of course, during the multicast that ESPN does, once again, they did the film room where they have the head coaches there. Shout out to A&T head coach Sam Washington, who was the first HBCU coach to appear in the film room during the national championship game on that broadcast. The bad thing, though, for anyone who watched that part of the broadcast was that he wasn't able to be there live due to COVID protocol. He's not sick. It's just that he has practice for the team for the upcoming spring schedule.
Correct.
And he didn't want to go and then have to quarantine and then mess up the practice schedule. So he just basically did everything remotely from his home while everyone else was in studio. And with that, it seemed like they talked over Coach Washington throughout the entire show, unless they asked him a direct question, which made me feel bad. I'm like, dude, why do y'all have him on there if y'all just want to talk over the two?
How was the flow? But yeah, yes.
It was horrible flow unless they asked him a direct question. But with that said, as it pertains to HBCUs, it's that time. It's media time. Well, not media time, but media day time. Today, start off the 2-day event of the SWAC having their spring football media day because FCS spring football is right around the corner. And today, Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, made his introduction to the local media within the media day with SWAC. So they're gonna have part 2 tomorrow, and then in about a week and a half, the MEAC will be having their virtual media day as well. So spring football is right around the corner. Oh, and speaking of spring football, it appears as though that North Carolina A&T will be without another player. The corner, Mac McCain, the grandson of Franklin McCain, from the A&T 4 that's well known for the Greensboro sit-ins.
Right, the sit-ins, yeah.
Yes. So yeah, Franklin McCain III, he's the namesake. They call him Mac. Will not be returning this spring. He's foregoing his final year and will be entering the NFL draft. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with him as he looks to further his NFL career. So it's going to be very interesting this spring to see what happens with him foregoing his final year. And this spring, they might be without Jermaine Martin, the star running back, because he's going to be participating in the NFL Players Association Collegiate Bowl later on this month. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what A&T does as a football program this upcoming spring in their final season in the MEAC. Yeah, this spring season is going to be very interesting in terms of HBCU sports on the on the FCS level, and to see how everything turns out. I'm basically calling this an elongated preseason before the fall season.
And with that, we'll wrap it up. So thank you all for tuning into the Klown Hour. Please subscribe on YouTube. Just hit the subscribe button. And then the bell goes ding, ding, ding. Whenever you get some new clips, you'll know. Also, please check out my man again on the Yards at HBCU Sports. He raps about all things HBCU Sports. Sleazy Radio as well on Facebook Live every Tuesday night. Check out his great work and contributions on herosports.com. We raps up FCS as it pertains to HBCUs. And that's for me and that's for everyone else. Do the following. Stay your ass at home. Wash your hands. If you have to leave the house, wear your masks. Okay.
Don't be like the University of Alabama fans.
Please don't. Please do not be in a super spreader event because Corona would be like this. You don't want that. Yeah, you don't want that. So stay your ass at home. Don't be like those kids out in the middle of wherever they were in Tuscaloosa. So please don't do that. Please be safe. And as always, take care. Have a good night. Peace out.